Cześć, witam Was w kolejnym odcinku serii Coffee with Chocolate Cake. Jeśli to pierwszy odcinek, który oglądacie, to w tej serii zadaję kilka mniej więcej takich samych pytań do każdego gościa, żeby pokazać, że każdy z nich ma inne podejście do welonów. To, co łączy moich gości, pomimo tych wszystkich różnic, to miłość do welonów i świetne rezultaty hodowlane. Dziś mam dla Was kolejnego gościa. Może nie znamy się z Jamie bardzo długo, ale od razu zaimponował mi swoją wiedzą, jak i głodem wiedzy i poszukiwaniem nowych rozwiązań. Jamie też lubi poznawać akwarystów z wieloletnim doświadczeniem i wiedzą i archiwizować ich wiedzę. Ma również kanał na YouTubie Mountain Goldfish, na który oczywiście serdecznie zapraszam i więcej o tym później. Gotowi? Hej Jamie, dzięki, że zgodziłeś się wziąć udział w tej serii. Opowiesz nam trochę więcej o sobie i o swoim kanale?
Thanks, Joanna. Hi everybody, or should I say dzień dobry. So I am Jamie and I run a YouTube channel based in North Wales called Mountain Goldfish, and I specialise mainly in fancy goldfish, but I do like planted aquariums, I do like aquascaping. I've got a little bit of that going on and you'll see some of that on my channel. I do a lot of fish store tours, especially looking at goldfish, but we don't get a lot of that, do we, over here? And yeah, I'll do some unboxing videos, that sort of stuff. And yeah, I thought I'd bring you along and show you and your subscribers my fish room and show you how I do things over here.
Pod koniec filmu będzie fragment niegoldfishowy, a tymczasem moje pierwsze pytanie dotyczące filtracji. Czy mógłbyś nam pokazać swój cały skomplikowany system, który zbudowałeś?
Well, that's a very good question, so I'll show you now. I am on a central air system, which I've turned off at the minute because it's quite loud. But so this obviously goes down, goes into the split, and then each tank has its own airline, and I control that individually just by turning these little notches. Okay. Yeah, and then in each tank I have a sponge filter, which will show you. Going up now, we've all seen sponge filters before. But what's a little bit different about my tanks is that I use an overflow system. I've got another tank that will show you a bit better the overflow. So we'll use this tank as an example. This is a tank I'm using and I'm letting the water go green on purpose. It's right next to a window. All the algae I want, and these fish I'm trying to grow out now. But if you look here, so I have water constantly trickling in this tank all day, every day, okay? So it looks dirty, the tank, to some people, but the water's clean. There's no ammonia in this water. That is all day, every day. This is changing over every hour or so, this tank, okay? And then that overflows, goes out into here, which is what they all go to, and then it goes down the drain, okay? So the water that's coming into the shed goes into this 3-stage filter and then goes to every tank, okay? It splits off, goes to every single tank. And I know that my water, once it's gone through this, has no chlorine, anything like that. And these tanks are always turning over. So really, you don't really need to filter these tanks because it's constantly getting a water change, although I do use the sponge filters and the air system. It just gets a lot of movement in the water as well, if anything. But while I'm getting movement in the water, you know, with an air stone, which I do have on quite powerful, like this one. But yeah, while I'm doing that with an air stone, I think I might as well use it to power a sponge for it as well.
Najbardziej zazdroszczę, że nie musisz się męczyć z manualnymi podmiankami wody. A teraz możesz powiedzieć parę słów o temperaturze w swoich zbiornikach?
So I don't really heat my tanks. I'll have some fish that come in, I'll be rearing some fry, I might keep a heater on them for a bit longer, keep them going through the winter a bit more, through the autumn. But other than that, my goldfish, once they're going, they have the same British weather that the rest of us do. I think that's better for the fish, it's more natural. I think you'll get a longer living fish. If you keep a fish heated all its life at 24 degrees, okay, it might grow quicker, but I don't believe it'll live longer. Fish in the wild, and I know goldfish aren't wild, fancy goldfish are far from wild, obviously they wouldn't survive in the wild. But I believe that they should have a natural cycle with the seasons. They should slow down over winter, okay, they eat a lot less over winter. It saves me a lot of money heating the shed over winter because this is an outdoor building now. This isn't attached to my house. This is at the bottom of the garden. But yeah, so no heating at all in here. If I get new fish coming in that are imports, then I would heat those and then breed from them, and then their fry I don't plan on heating, okay? If they don't survive, they don't survive, but I want hardy British fish that are going to survive in the British weather. I'm not sending them anywhere hot. They're going to stay here where it's cool. Yeah, so I'm hoping they might not grow as fast, but they're stronger fish.
Świetnie, że wspominasz o naturalnym podejściu. Zastanawiam się, czy również w kwestii karmienia promujesz naturalne sposoby. Możesz nam też przybliżyć, czym karmisz swoje welonki?
So feeding wise, I quite like most people, hikari, goldfish staple. This is a small one, some fish I'm growing on. I also love fluval bug bites, but I also give my fish a bit of everything, really. So I'll have some tetra goldfish flake. If I go to a fish shop, I normally walk away with a fish or some fish food. And then I'll just dump it in as and when. So I don't follow an exact feeding cycle. I work different shifts, so I can't follow that. But again, I prefer a more natural way of keeping these very, very unnatural fish. Especially Big Mama. Yeah, but it's a more natural way. Fish in the wild wouldn't be finding food every day at 2 o'clock and then 6 o'clock. So I keep it more natural. I feed as and when. I feed different amounts. And yeah, my fish are doing quite well with it. They're not skinny. But yeah, so that's how I do it. A bit of everything. I try and mix it up as much as possible. I use good quality food as much as possible. And yeah, I also feed a lot of live food. So, for instance, my live food, at the minute, I am rearing some baby brine shrimp, okay, in this hatchery. Again, we'll turn that on so you can see the bubbles. Okay, I've made my own hatchery, the bottle underneath. They alternate every day. So, if this, I mean, everybody's reared live baby brine shrimp, I suppose, which I will then feed to these. If it'll focus for me, my ranchu. So these are little ranchu fry in here. Okay, at the minute they're having the live baby brine shrimp that hatch out in here and then put in the tank. So they have live foods. I try and keep my own Daphne. I feed a lot of frozen foods as well. Got my own little section in the freezer for the fish. Yeah, a bit of everything. Variety is the spice of life, as they say. So keep it different. Keep trying to catch your fish off guard. So you can do what's known as natural enrichment, okay, especially with a diet. So a lot of foraging. I'll do some floating foods, but I do prefer a sinking food, okay? Especially with fancy goldfish. That's my salt eye ranchu. So the fry that I just showed you in the tank above are the babies of that goldfish there, this ranchu.
Twoje ryby świetnie się prezentują, zwłaszcza te malutkie ranczu są przesłodkie i przecudowne. A mógłbyś nam powiedzieć, jaka jest twoja ulubiona ryba, albo może twoja ulubiona rasa?
Well, you've seen her a lot in the video already, so I think you'll probably guess, but my favourite, or one of my favourites at the minute is Big Mama. Just show you now. There she is. So she is quite a big girl. She is a pearl scale, what's known as a ping pong pearl scale. And she came to me from Elaine Edmonds, who is a breeder of pearl scales in the UK. Another fish that I adore are these butterfly telescopes. So I've got them in the bowl here because I think they're shown better from above than they are in a tank, in a side-on view. They're still beautiful fish anyway. But these are young. These were bred this year. So their tails aren't fully splayed yet, but these are calico butterfly telescopes, and I think butterfly telescopes are my favourite type of fish. I do obviously love the pearl scales, I love the ranchu, but butterfly telescopes are just absolutely gorgeous. They're a bit more difficult to breed because they've got a lot more, so you've got to get the tail spread, you've got to get the split in the tail here. You've got to obviously get the telescope eyes. There's a lot more to it than some of the other types of fish. So you know, out of a few thousand fry, you may only end up with very few fish that you're able to keep on. So there's higher cull rates in these fish, I suppose. But because of that, they're also one of my favourites. How could you not love that fish?
Zawsze też proszę swoich gości o poradę dla początkujących weloniarzy. Czy jest jedna złota rada, którą chciałbyś przekazać wszystkim początkującym?
Well, I'd say that's probably quite a difficult one to answer. There's a lot to it. There's a lot more than what people think. Obviously, back in the day, people would just keep a goldfish in a goldfish bowl and think, well, that was acceptable, and we've moved on, and now we know that is far from acceptable and far from ideal for your goldfish, especially if you're spending a lot of money on goldfish, which people are these days. But yeah, I think there's a lot to learn. I'm still learning every day. I've not been keeping goldfish for a huge amount of time. I've only been keeping them for a couple of years now. I've learned a lot, and I've had to build all my fish room from scratch. But yeah, I think an important one is, and one that I didn't do at the very start, which cost me, was quarantine. So now I have a barrel down here, which I quarantine fish in. This is all I use to quarantine my fish in. It's a barrel. I throw plants in here just because. But yeah, so any fish I'm quarantining, they live in there. All the other fish can look down on them in the fish room. There's actually a few white clouds in there I got, and I'm going to put in a little project in the garden at the minute. I don't know if you'll see some. Yeah. But yeah, definitely quarantine your fish. And, you know, treat them anyway. Treat them for fluke, I suppose. Salt is a good treatment. But yeah, monitor them. I personally keep mine for 3 to 6 months in quarantine, especially if they're from a pet shop. From a pet shop, absolutely 6 months, you know, or an import would be 6 months for me. Some people even do longer than that, I know. And I think once I've been breeding my fish for a lot longer, and I've got the lines that have been going for quite a few years, I think mine will be going on for longer as well, my quarantine, because it's just not worth bringing something into the fish room. I understand if you've only got one tank in the house, that's a little bit more different as a general fancy goldfish keeper. But always, for as long as you can, keep that fish separate from your own. But yeah, enjoy it. There's loads to learn, and as long as you put your absolute best in it, you'll get a lot out of this hobby.
Również jestem zwolennikiem zasady, że im dłuższa kwarantanna, tym lepsza. Na początku filmu również wspomniałeś, że masz inne rybki też. Chciałbyś się nimi pochwalić?
Well, I do keep another type of fish, which is known as the Japanese medaka, or the Japanese rice fish. I keep those in a barrel outside, a half barrel I've turned into a pond. I made that into a little series on my channel, did a couple of videos on how to do that, and that's turned out really well. The medaka, which I'm sure you can see, are absolutely beautiful. The colours on them really stands out, and the reason I quite like this fish, and the reason that I want to sort of bring these forward to the hobby and let people know about them a bit more, is because I think they're the perfect replacement for goldfish in a small pond such as this, because a lot of people will try and keep goldfish in a small pond and they're not suited for it. They create too much ammonia and the fish is going to grow big and outgrow that pond. But yeah, these medaka will stay relatively small, about the size of a guppy. They like sitting at the surface. They're perfect, you'll see them, and the colours are beautiful. They look like miniature koi. I like the ones that look more like miniature koi anyway. There are some blues as well and things like that that look really tropical. So I think that for everybody that's building a small pond and would like goldfish, get medaka instead. As much as we all love goldfish, these medaka are perfect for it. If you can't afford a massive pond for koi, get medaka.
Dziękuję, Jamie, że zgodziłeś się wziąć udział w naszej serii. Chciałam jeszcze dodać, że Jamie bierze udział w bardzo interesującym projekcie. Polega on na tym, że dostał rybę, którą będzie groomował przez rok, a potem pojedzie z nią na wystawę. Jeśli chcecie śledzić losy tej ryby, to oczywiście bardzo serdecznie zapraszam na kanał Mountain Goldfish. Tam również możecie pooglądać szczegółowo te wszystkie systemy, jakie Jamie ma, i również inne ryby. Tymczasem to tyle na dzisiaj. Dziękuję za uwagę i jak zwykle zapraszam na kolejny odcinek.